Parliament says it's all systems go for the State of the Nation address by President Cyril Ramaphosa this evening. The speech will be delivered at Cape Town City Hall for the second time following last year's fire that gutted National Assembly. This year's gathering will also have all the pomp and ceremony that's been missing since the COVID-19 pandemic. Several political parties have threatened to disrupt today's proceedings, but Parliament's Xolile George says they've done everything they can to ensure that things run smoothly. Let's get you a sense of the mood on the ground and begin our coverage with my co-anchor Michelle Craig, stationed just outside the Mitchell's Plain Police Station in the Western Cape this morning. And Michelle, of course, great anticipation given the promises that have been made in the past and just how few of them, it seems, have materialized.
Absolutely. Good morning, Ayanda, and to our viewers as well. Live to you here, as you mentioned, from just in front of the Mitchell's Plain Police Station. Heavy morning traffic, it's business as usual, but we're all building up to the State of the Nation address taking place this evening. Set to kick off at 7 o'clock. We'll see what the EFF has to say about that. But it's going to be a day of protests more than anything, Ayanda, and that started even as far as yesterday. Defend Our Democracy, one organization, civic society organization, holding a rally just yesterday in the build-up to the SONA this morning. And part of what they had to say is that they want President Cyril Ramaphosa, when he delivers his 7th State of the Nation address this evening, to be honest about the severity of the multiple crises that faces South Africa on this day in 2023. That really is the sentiment from ordinary South Africans as well, who are bearing the brunt of these multiple crises. When I opened the show this morning, I talked about the healthcare sector and our crumbling infrastructure, the cost of living and how that has increased exponentially over the past few years. Of course, at the top of all of our minds is the load-shedding power crisis. We think of our hospitals and the water shortages that have come out as a result of the electricity crisis. Several hospitals left without water as well. Gender-based violence is a scourge that we called under COVID-19 our parallel pandemic. These are just some of the issues that we as South Africans live with on a daily basis. And this evening, civil society organizations, and I'm sure many of our viewers who are watching this morning as well, what they want from Cyril Ramaphosa is to acknowledge this moment that we are in as a country and to map a concrete way forward. This is not just about plans on paper and empty promises. The time now is for action. That really is the call from South Africans this morning. So as we're live here from Mitchell's Plain Police Station, a bittersweet moment for me. This is the community where I grew up in, Ayanda. And it's still one that is plagued by violence, sexual violence, mass shootings, gangsterism. These are issues that have not resolved over the past decades. They've only just increased exponentially. I've got some figures here in front of me for the country as a whole and where we are at insofar as crime and violence is concerned. When we think about the crime statistics released for 2022, 26,370 people lost their lives to violent crimes. They were murdered in the space of 1 year in South Africa. We talk about gender-based violence. Those numbers increase exponentially. At this police station where we are at, there have been over 1,000 cases of rape reported over the past year. Sexual violence, that number goes up even more. In fact, Mitchell's Plain Police Station is at the top of the list of 30 police stations in the region insofar as sexual violence is concerned. So throughout the show this morning, we're going to be speaking to key role players in civil society, hopefully in government as well, for what they want to hear from the President when he takes to the podium at City Hall this evening.
A great snapshot of the context in which we kind of look to 7 o'clock when the President finally takes to the lantern. Michelle Craig, thanks very much indeed. She's live to us once again from Mitchell's Plain in the Western Cape this morning. But our team is placed strategically throughout that province as we build up to 7 o'clock. Govan Whittles is currently at the City Hall precinct. We've kind of heard there's a sense of business as usual in Mitchell's Plain, Govan, but how's it looking where you're at?
Well, the streets and the entire precinct around City Hall are on lockdown, and this is certainly one State of the Nation address that's going to have a lot more police than previous ones. It's one where we're expecting the protests to return in full force. We'll try to give you a sense of what it's looking like right now outside the City Hall. Some of the police gathering already. They've been doing so since 4 o'clock this morning. They're gathering because they're anticipating a huge protest to take place just outside the State of the Nation address. The protesters will start arriving at the Cape Town station, and they're planning to raise their voices and unhappiness over the rolling power cuts, load shedding, which has reached stage 6 in recent days. The city of Cape Town, of course, being able to operate at 2 stages lower than the rest of the country because it has managed to secure independent power supply, but there is still a huge lobby intending to raise the protest at the State of the Nation address. That's not the only form of protest that's expected. There are a number of other smaller groupings that are planning to gather around the precinct, but they may only be able to get within 2 or 3 blocks from where we're standing right now because the perimeter has been set far and wide. The police will be addressed by the Minister Bheki Cele later this morning, where he's expected to give the marching orders and tell them to keep the protesters at a safe distance. Remember that this State of the Nation address is expected to return with as much pomp and ceremony as it possibly could for 8 million rand. That's the price tag. It is scaled down considering the rising cost of living in the country and the fact that a lot of people are struggling right now, but there is expected to be some show fanfare here outside the City Hall. This area will be packed a little bit later on. We'll get a chance to interact with some of the members of parliament, different politicians, but for this year we'll take a closer look at the view from the community, and in a short while we'll be joining some of these Cape Town residents who will be interacting with the Minister in the Presidency as he tries to show up support for people to tune in to the State of the Nation address. It'll also be broadcast from one of the parliamentary constituency offices in Athlone. That's as they try to take engagement about the address to the people, that initiative being led by some of the political parties. But this is firmly the site where most of the MPs and people who hope to have their voices heard by some of the MPs and the President before he makes his way inside the City Hall to deliver that address will be taking place. We'll be here to give you all the latest as it happens. But for now, Ayanda, it's back to you.
Yeah, certainly. All systems go, or perhaps the calm before the storm. Govan Whittles, live to us there from the Cape Town City Hall precinct. Thanks very much indeed.